Now, a CNN exclusive. The U.S. observed Russian naval vessels preparing for a possible test of a new nuclear-powered torpedo in recent weeks. A senior official with direct knowledge tells me among the vessels that took part in those preparations was the Belgorod. It's a cruise missile submarine modified for special operations, including launching unmanned underwater vehicles. That includes the Poseidon torpedo, as it's known, seen here. It is a nuclear-powered, unmanned underwater vehicle capable of carrying both conventional and nuclear munitions with a nuclear propulsion system that gives it virtually limitless range. In the last week, those Russian vessels observed leaving the testing area in the Arctic Sea, heading back to port without carrying out a test. The U.S. believes the Russians may have encountered technical difficulties. Joining me now to discuss this and other Russia-Ukraine news, retired Major General Mark Hertling, former commanding general of the U.S. Army Europe and the 7th Army. General, good to have you on.
Good to be with you, Jim. It's interesting items we're talking about this morning, isn't it?
No question. This nuclear torpedo, or really underwater unmanned vehicle here, it's something that Putin himself touted in the State of the Union address in 2018. How significant a weapon is this, and how significant in your view that they wanted, it seems, to carry out a test here but weren't able to?
Yeah, well, we're calling it the Poseidon. Russians call it, and NATO calls it the Status 6. As you've been showing pictures, it's about 4 feet in diameter, about 14 feet long. But interestingly enough, it has the capability to go literally a couple of thousand miles, first at a slow pace, then at a larger pace, or faster pace, I'm sorry. It is designed to loiter off of major cities and carry a thermonuclear weapon. Now, what I think we're hearing from the intelligence community is seeing this being loaded up on that Belgorod-class submarine tells me that it was part of the nuclear exercise that Russia so transparently advertised over the last couple of weeks. Coming back into port, again, they may just be transporting it, see what it was like, part of an exercise. Right now, I don't think I would put anything more into it than that. It's not like Russia, in my view, is preparing for a nuclear strike.
Understood. And that's to be clear here. A test, very different from a nuclear strike, and we want to be clear about that. Let's talk about, and by the way, a test without a nuclear detonation device attached to it. Let's talk about the battlefield now in Ukraine. Russian forces significantly withdrawing from Kherson, the only provincial capital that they were able to capture in this ongoing invasion here. How significant a loss is that for Russia, and victory for the Ukrainians?
It's pretty big, Jim. We've been talking about this for weeks as the Ukrainian forces have been attempting to surround those forces that are on the western bank of the Dnipro River. That is where the Russian forces decided, interestingly enough, to take up defensive positions with a large river and a wide river at their back. They have attempted now to get across that river onto the eastern side of Kherson province and setting up multiple layers of defensive positions across that. What you've got to understand is it will certainly allow the Ukrainian forces to liberate some of those cities on the western bank of the Dnipro, but at the same time, it would be very difficult right now for the Ukrainian forces to conduct what would be the equivalent of an amphibious assault to get across that river. At the same time, there's fighting going on elsewhere, and all of it seems to be in the momentum of the Ukraine forces.
We have heard some public discussion now of the potential for talks to end this war. Responding to those talks, you hear Ukrainian officials once again saying the condition for settlement is that Russia leaves all occupied territories. They're not willing to trade land, in effect, for peace here. Do you see a change in the attitude towards negotiations, particularly from Western partners and the U.S., and do you see any sort of unstated pressure here on Ukraine to think about talking?
I do not, Jim, and I've been reading the reports in a lot of journals and magazines and newspapers as well. And I think these are a lot of pundits saying, hey, there's an opportunity here as winter is coming up. The Russian forces have been beaten in several battlefield fronts. It's time for Ukraine to take a look at that. I think the Biden administration has been perfectly clear from the very beginning that they will take Ukraine's lead in terms of negotiation. Now, Mr. Zelensky has made it very clear. He wants to regain the sovereignty of his territory, interestingly, including Crimea, something that will certainly put Mr. Putin in the defensive position. But I got to tell you, Russia has not been very good in terms of any of the operations they have conducted. They have continued to fail in even attempting to regenerate and move their forces around. So there could be a potential opportunity for negotiation. But again, I believe the United States is going to stand firmly behind President Zelensky in what he and the Ukrainian people want to do.
There had been some concern among Democrats and frankly, Republicans that I've spoken with that a Republican win in this election here in the U.S. would, if not put an end to, make it far more difficult to get new money, new weapon systems to the Ukrainians, at least get the votes to do so, to spend that kind of money. It does appear still the Republicans will take the House here. Do you think that this puts in jeopardy future financial and military assistance for Ukraine from the U.S.?
It's certainly going to put a different
We may
have
operations. Oh, there he is. Sorry, finish your thought, Mark. You disappeared for a moment, just quickly.
Yeah, sorry. We have seen that politics always play a part in funding funding operations. With a new political body, there may be additional discussions about that. And truthfully, Jim, as we all know, all of the Western forces have dedicated a lot of equipment, training personnel, as well as ammunition to this fight. So I'm sure that a new group of politicians believing they're in charge will have more debates about this, but we have been pretty clear about saying we need to defend this from a values-based perspective and a sovereignty of another country.